Hello everybody, lovely to see you all on this lovely evening. My name is Chloe Hill. I'm in the final stages of a PhD between the Music and History departments here at the University of Southampton. My research explores domestic music making in 16th and 17th century England, which is a period of time often referred to as the early modern period. And I use the musical environment of everyday life as a lens through which to explore social and cultural developments in the early modern home. My research covers a range of musical practices, from recreational to devotional music making, and one area that I have found particularly intriguing is that of the role of music in early modern discord or conflict. And that will be the focus of the upcoming course and also of this taster session today. So in this session, we'll explore how music, and particularly libellus balladry, function not only as entertainment, but as a tool for social policing and dissent. As we'll see, there are striking resonances between the way in which this manifested and many of the contemporary issues we face today around the uses of information technology, for example. So early modern people believed that music had innate powers over both the body and soul. These theories originated in the ancient world, as the ancient Greek philosopher and polymath Pythagoras established that the ratios between lyre strings corresponded to the proportionate distances between the planets, and subsequent classical beliefs were inherited from the theories of ancient Greek and subsequently Roman philosophers such as Plato, Aristotle, Cicero, and Boethius. Plato linked the motion of the heavenly spheres to audible music produced by sirens, which were later reassigned as angels, singing a note of constant pitch upon 8 spheres and creating a scale. And Pythagoras's mathematical theories essentially remain the same today, which is why we have 8 notes in a scale. This was accompanied by 3 fates, Lachesis, Clotho, and Atropos. Whilst the celestial scale rang unceasingly throughout the universe, it was believed that the inherent sin of man rendered him incapable of hearing it. The various Greek modes made up of these scales, or harmoniae, were attributed with different affective characteristics. The Ionian mode, for example, which is the mode most similar to our modern major scale today, was associated with joy and brightness, whereas the Aeolian, which is more similar to our modern minor scale, was associated with melancholy. So there's still those kind of resemblances there. Despite falling largely out of use by the early modern period, the concept that certain types of music could be healing or harmful to the body and soul remained of central importance to early modern understandings of the effective powers of music. So whilst music could act as a healing balm in times of physical or spiritual affliction, it could also held the capacity to be weaponized. Early modern people harnessed music as a weapon very enthusiastically to regulate social behavior, express dissent, or provoke political debate in a variety of ways, often risking significant and gruesome punishments should they be caught. One of the ways in which they did this was via the medium of libellus balladry, which is what I'll be focusing on for the remainder of this session, before a short activity, and then, as Nadia mentioned, some time for questions at the end. Ballads were a popular form of cheap and accessible print in early modern England that employed a multi-sensory combination of text, image, and song. And it's estimated that there was anywhere between 600,000 and 4 million in circulation during the late 16th and early 17th century. So that's dependent on the size of the print runs. They could have varied in size, but there's a good chance that there were a few million in circulation, which is an incredible number considering how small the population was. So these were just absolutely everywhere. You'd have found them walking down the street, on the floor. They were all over the place. Early modern people would have been very familiar with the performances of street sellers flogging their ballads, singing them on the street corners, and they were regularly found pasted to the walls of alehouses and also in the home, used as decoration. And even despite their protestations, they were collected and carefully curated by wealthy gentlemen who wouldn't want you to know that, but they did collect them. Their performative nature and imagery made them popular with both the literate and illiterate. So these were very multisensory items. So despite being textual, they also had imagery, and they were meant to be sung. They were meant to be performed. They were for everybody, for the literate and illiterate. At the top of each ballad, there was a musical instruction which would read to the tune of, and then you might have to the tune of Greensleeves, for example. And early modern people lived in a society that was predominantly ruled by the ear rather than by the eye, as it is now. And they were expected to memorize hundreds of tunes and just have them. So it would say to the tune of Jenny's Jig or something like this, and they would immediately be able to recall that tune. And that was just an expected thing. Everybody was supposed to do that. It's an incredible number of tunes. And even professional musicians now, I think, would struggle to keep up with that number of tunes. Libellus ballads were a subset of balladry that employed the potent combination of text, image, and song as a multisensory weapon to spread and perpetuate slander, calling upon gossip and rumour to publicly ridicule an intended victim, be that an individual, a group, or a community. Seemingly impervious to attempts to control their spread, in densely populated areas, libels could quickly grow out of control, advancing as if having a life force of their own. They provided a cathartic release of tensions that could not otherwise be publicly aired. As a stylized method of attack, libels interacted with the propagation of spoken gossip and rumour in ways that traversed the confines of the oral and literate, popular and elite. Such methods were therefore ideally placed to subvert traditional hierarchies, and their widespread popularity and extensive circulation following the invention of the printing press marked libellus balladry as a multisensorial cultural feature of early modern English society. As a complex form of social media, libels could take a variety of forms, often blending fact and fiction. Libellus balladry, or balladry that called on many of the themes popular in libel, held a dual functionality. On the one hand, the content of the libel acted as a site of discourse, often acting as a sharp and entertaining reminder not to fall foul of social parameters. On the other hand, libellus ballads occupied a much more tangible role, embodying a sonic and material intervention in maintaining or upsetting the social, cultural, and political status quo. The potent combination of song, imagery, printed word, and tangible performance, in conjunction with the rapid spread of cheap print and its pervasiveness across all tiers of early modern society, made balladry an enormously powerful weapon. The interplay between these components strengthened the durability of the libel, as makers sought to have their slanderous songs committed to paper, both providing a physical means of circulation and forging a sense of authority and permanence by binding the ephemeral to the tangible print of the broadside. Libellus ballads were often performed raucously beneath the window of their intended victims. In the spring of 1609, for example, a man named Simon Girdler of Tenterden in Kent performed a ridiculous drunken jig outside the house of a sober and religious magistrate, John Tilden, to a greatly mixed response of hilarity and shame on behalf of both the victim and the performer. In 1624, Aaron Holland stood before the court of the Star Chamber in London, accused of hiring a ballad singer to perform a libellus ballad named Keep the Widow Waking under the window of its intended victim, Anne Elston. Witnesses attested to the ballad being sung in the streets, with boys pointing to Anne Elston's window, shouting, "There dwelt the widow waking." The ballad's musical nature bestowed them with the ability to permeate physical boundaries and infiltrate the safety of the home, jeopardizing the sense of security afforded by material and spatial control. Libellus ballads could also be nailed to front doors for passers-by to scoff at as a physical mark of humiliation on the boundary between their home and the street beyond. These were repeatedly read aloud by passers-by and often contained an acknowledgement of their placement, with phrases such as, "Within this door dwelleth a notorious whore." The unsanctioned alteration to the materiality of the household destabilized the jurisdiction of the occupants over their physical environment, threatening the sanctity of the space and generating a sense of vulnerability. Even in circumstances in which a personalised libel was unable to reach print, formulaic ballads allowed victims' names to be inserted into a pre existing standard. Such was the pervasiveness of libels that even men of the cloth were not immune to a little libelling. In Pilton, Somerset, it was declared that the vicar hath made rhymes and lewd songs, and delivered them unto others to be sung with the great discontentment of the people. A minister named John Swift from Havant in Hampshire was accused of being a known and common libeller and contriver of false and slanderous libels, who would, by way of jest and merriment, scoffingly sing, divulge, and publish. Questions of gender and domestic agency are of central importance to libellus balladry, and a cultural fascination with gender in the home illuminates the power of injurious remarks mocking poor domestic practice. Spreading rumours about domestic malpractice could lead to really serious real world repercussions for households, and the influx of print warning against poor household management was one channel through which households were informed and reminded of their domestic obligations. One such libellus ballad, The Joiner's Job Finished, or The Loving Mistress, which you can see up on the screen at the moment, um, was recently uncovered at Lambeth Palace, so this is a relatively new find. The ballad, which is a unique copy, was preserved as an exhibit in papers relating to a legal case at the Court of Arches in the autumn of 1669. The opening lines give tantalising hints as to the identity of the victims, yet stop short of revealing their names. And these are the first two stanzas. There was a wife of late which did complain, how that her husband could not ease her pain. Therefore her man must make a holiday, so he at night would send her grief away. Likewise a glazier had a hand in this, which many times the joiner's wife did kiss. Yet where they dwell, or yet what is their name, I shall forbear to tell for fear of blame. The identity of the couple must have been common knowledge and did not remain secret for very long. However, as before long, a joiner named Stephen Segar made the claim that the ballad was based on his household. Segar sought to clear his name and receive a judicial separation from his wife, Grace, with whom he suffered 6 years of childlessness, claiming she had committed adultery with his apprentice, Tarrant Reeve. In the ballad, a joiner's sexual inadequacy is disastrously combined with his wife's longing for a child. She engages in an affair, first with a glazier, and then even more injuriously with her husband's apprentice. So we can see this is almost definitely about the Segar family. This particular ballad is set to the tune Turn Love, and tunes such as this often took on associations with popular ballads, which embedded a layer of meaning in the cultural consciousness and added complexity to their reuse. So you may have a tune that you would recognize, it's always associated with cuckoldry, or it's always associated with things that are tunes that are humorous. And so you'd know as soon as you heard that tune, you'd bring that association to your reading of the text. So I have a recording here of the tune Turn Love. It's set to a different text, so it's not this text, but it's in a different reuse, but you can hear the tune to get a little flavour of what it sounded like. So I should play that now. Revenge points go far, and I will my heart is justly to enter stoutly on. I hate the thoughts of cowardice or such a dirty thing. All to the laws go volunteer in service for the king. So as you can hear, they're very catchy tunes. They're very memorable. They're designed to be memorable. They're fun. You'd be humming them whilst you're at home doing the washing. Or it's meant to be an earworm that sticks with you all day. And yes, you can sort of build those associations. The district in which Stephen and Grace Segar lived in London, Little Britain, was absolutely notorious for publishing ballads on the theme of cuckoldry like this, and at least 50 were published within 1 mile of the Segars' home during their lifetimes. So just an incredible number of these in circulation. The structures of governance underpinning the early modern household was expected to reflect the rigorously hierarchical and patriarchal structures of wider society, and cultural anxieties over the performance of masculinity in an inherently patriarchal system were underpinned by a fear of disorder. For a man to lose control of his wife seriously upended the social order of the household. And if the head of the household failed in the governance of his own home, how could he be trusted within wider systems of state governance? Maintaining this trust was of crucial importance in a credit-based economy that relied upon networks of reputational credit for securing social, economic, cultural, and sometimes political advantages. A late 17th century entitled Advice to Bachelors, sung to the tune of Hey Boys Up We Go, Busy Fame, Martellus, or Jenny Din, is a lamentation of narrated by a cuckold, warning bachelors to choose their wives wisely, which I shall bring up now on the screen. There we go, and we can listen to a little bit of it.
You bachelors that single are may lead a happy life, for married men are full of care, and women of great strife. As by my late unhappy match you here may plainly see, my loving man and froward wife will never well agree.
Just now I'm thinking of synergies with the Damini's previous presentation, thinking about the marginalisation of women there. But yes, so the fear of being sung up and down by minstrels was a very serious one indeed. And it was the punishment really, rather than the crime, that held the most shame. The public performance of shaming an individual had far-reaching consequences, affecting not only the reputational credit of the victim, but also all of those associated with them, so their whole household. Being libelled could have a devastating impact on a person's life, often leading them to become socially isolated and depressed. In the case of Joan Cund in 1604, an infamous libel ruined her marriage, after which she took such an inward grief and sorrow that she presently fell sick and sinned, wasted and consumed away, and shortly afterwards died. Henry Collins of Somerset was so terrorised and isolated by the seditious libel of John Hawker, who was a notorious offender, that he became afraid to leave his house, his home becoming his refuge. Even when confined within the walls of their home, however, victims were not entirely safe from their assailants. Sonic attacks could penetrate the material and imagined boundaries of home, where occupants were at their most vulnerable. Such an attack left the victim with nowhere else to retreat. In the age of social media, where phones have become as a familiar part of our domestic decor as frying pans and toothbrushes, technology is again facilitating the infiltration of the unceasingly external expectations of our public lives into the most intimate spaces of our homes. Like tweets or viral videos, ballads spread rapidly, often anonymously, targeting individuals through humour, ridicule, or sexual innuendo. Their multisensory form, combining image, text, and music, made them highly memorable and emotionally potent, and tunes or formats took on specific meanings as they evolved. Just as modern social media can invade the private sphere through notifications, comments, or viral posts shared without consent, libellous ballads breach the boundaries of domestic space. What was once said in the street could now resonate in the home. And like today's online shaming can lead to ostracization, job loss, or psychological distress, early modern libel held tangible and sometimes even fatal repercussions. As terms such as witch hunt come to the fore of our cultural consciousness, looking to the noisy social shaming rituals of the past offers insights not only into the social, cultural, and political complexities of early modern society, but may make us pause for thought when we consider the ways in which new technologies have impacted our own. So to finish off, we are going to try our hands at a quick, fun activity. So hopefully this will work. What I'll do is I'm going to reveal the first two lines of an early modern libellus ballad, and then I'll give you a couple of minutes to have a go at completing the rhyme. And if you feel happy to do so, please feel free to type it into the Q&A box so we can have fun reading them before I reveal the real answer, the real rhyme. So it's just a bit of fun, really. The first one here, I shall give you an example. So the first half reads, "These loyal men of Buckingham, true only to their purses." And then you could finish it with something like, it could be anything, like, "Each had a small epiphany, and now they work as nurses." I mean, anything kind of fun. So have fun with it. And whilst it would be suitably early modern, please avoid using any profanities. So I shall give you 2 minutes, and hopefully you should be able to type straight into the Q&A box. There we go. Right, I should give you a couple of minutes. Okay, I can see that nothing's popped up yet, so I'm not sure if that's a technical thing, or what we can do is we can move on to the answer. Right, so what I'll do is I'll reveal the real answer now. It was, "These loyal men of Buckingham, true only to their purses, would sell the crown to enrich the town and laugh at all your curses." So well done if you got close to that. When I trialed this out earlier, I did it with a friend and they managed to almost get it perfectly. So well done if you've managed to get that. Okay.
Have a go.
Oh, brilliant. Oh yes, there we go. New post. Oh yes, we've had a couple come through. Okay, I'll read those out. So it would be, "Those loyal men of Buckingham, true only to their purses, took to social media and traded well in curses." Oh, well done, Alison. You got so close. Oh, I like that one. Brilliant. Okay, and we've got another one. "These loyal men of Buckingham, true only to their purses, they wear a smile, yet sell their soul for gain, not for love. Their kindness coined not in silver, but in grace." Oh, I like that. I think that's better. I think we should change it. Brilliant. Okay, excellent. So I've got one more of those to do. Now I've got the hang of it. Okay, so this is the next one. "A nobleman married a cruel scold, who in her humours could never be controlled." So it's a double rhyme. So you could finish with something like, "Yet still he endured her with patience most rare, though his hair turned silver and thinned with despair." I don't know, something similar. I'll give you a couple of minutes. Okay, I can see we have a couple pop-ups, so I'll read those out. If we're waiting if we're going to get any more. Feel free to continue typing it in. So far we've got a noble man married a cruel scold who in her humours could never be controlled. Have fun riding their horses whilst Shakespeare's theatre rehearses. Brilliant. And we've got another one. A noble man married a cruel scold who in her humours could never be controlled. But that is just one point of view. Perhaps she also hated him too. Brilliant. I knew we'd get some good ones of you. And last one. A noble man married a cruel scold who in her humours could never be controlled. He died in despair as her jokes were so cold. Oh, and there's one more popped up. A noble man married a cruel scold who in her humours could never be controlled. Her tongue a lash, her moods a shifting flame. No counsel calms the fury in her eyes. Oh, I liked these ones. That's brilliant. Well done. Well done. I shall reveal you the real answer now. Okay, so the real answer. A noble man married a cruel scold who in her humours could never be controlled, so that he was wearied all his life by the cross humours of his forward wife. Yes, I mean, some of these are they do make you make your toes curl. Well done. So you sort of get that, they're supposed to be very engaging. They're supposed to be accessible for everybody. You're supposed to be able to sort of swap out the stanzas if you need them. You could put somebody you know's name in there. They're very kind of got those playground vibes almost. Okay. So just before we come to a close, and perhaps you want to be typing your questions into the Q&A box if you have any, I'd just like to take a moment to say that if you've enjoyed the taster session today, please do consider taking a look at the lifelong learning course I'll be running here at the University of Southampton, where we'll go on to consider other noisy and sometimes quite bizarre musical rituals of the early modern period. The course is scheduled to run online between 6:30 and 8:30 on Tuesday evenings, between the 21st of October and the 25th of November. And you can find more information and how to book by visiting www.southampton.ac.uk/lifelong learning. There's so much more interesting discussion to be had. It would be a real pleasure to see you there. There's plenty more where this came from. That has a lot of kind of interesting repercussions on how we think about early modern society, and also how we reflect on our own society and technologies today. It's not just libellus balladry. There are other forms of shaming ritual as well. So please do join us then to find out more about that. Yes, and thank you very much.